Bonjour, bonjour, mes amis. It's good to see everyone here again, especially on our regularly scheduled week. My name is Dr. Krista. I'm the Chief Science Officer here at the DNA Company, and it is my privilege and pleasure to be able to host and usher us through this glorious topic of New Year, New View. It's the DNA Company's community offering to the end of finding sustainable, personalized health change for everyone here. So for those that are new to us, welcome. We've been meeting for quite a while. We've been meeting since late January, and our journeys really have, or our focuses have really sat a lot on mindset and how we go about kind of thinking about change, the why in particular behind change, and then different things that we can do to bring change into our life and how to make sure it's intelligent change, right? We've talked to our audience a few times, and we thought this would be a lot about weight loss, and then there's a lot of wonderful fitness goals and energy goals and larger health goals. So as I begin to introduce our illustrious, wonderful panel here, I really encourage you to fill out that survey. We'll leave it up for a few more minutes as I'm introducing everyone, because we really want to ensure that we're serving what you are seeking to know. So tonight, the topic is going to be diet and nutrition. For those that have been with us through the entire journey, at this point in time, you would have your results. So the goal of this evening is going to be really speaking to how do you make use of those results? How do you begin to pull in your diet and nutrition to support whatever goal, whatever why you have? We know there's a large mix here. We have some weight loss, we have some fitness seekers, we have some health seekers, we have some energy seekers, we have a fun little group of other. So please do fill out that survey so that this evening, as we go through our time, as we speak with our experts, we can really be talking to you. Setup is we're going to talk for about 40-ish minutes, and then we're going to jump into our questions and answers. So if you guys have questions for us, in particular for that last little bit, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat section, or sorry, into the question and answer section so that we can get to them. And please do not be abashed from jumping into the chat section. I'm grateful that people are already in there, and I'm seeing some hellos from all over the world. As a Canadian, I'm not familiar with the state abbreviations. I think we have North Carolina, VA might be Virginia. Please don't slaughter me if I'm getting that wrong. We have a few Americans in the audience. They'll help us out. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our wonderful panel this evening. If the powers that be want to bring them up on screen, we have a wonderful returning face of Felicia, and then we have a new face here with glorious, illustrious curls, Dr. Stephanie. Yes, ma'am. I always call them out, and I know Felicia's secret. Felicia has some curls tucked under there. One day there's going to be a triad. One day, a girl can hope. But without dwelling too long on hair, let me introduce people. I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to start with our new member. I'm going to ask Dr. Steph to introduce herself. She's one of our more popular favorite in-house clinicians, and then we'll round it out with Felicia again, who's a steady favorite here within the DNA Company. So Dr. Steph, please introduce yourself to our friends.
Good evening, and I'm so happy to be here. I just love our DNA co-founder. And with Stephanie Nielsen, I am a pharmacist by training. I was a traditionally trained pharmacist, got cancer at 21, and no amount of drugs or medicine could take care of me. So fortunately, I learned about diet, nutrition, alternative medicine and lifestyle, and shifted my whole practice. So I'm also a board certified clinical nutritionist and a functional genomic practitioner. I've been practicing for over 25 years. I've had a brick and mortar practice. Now I've gone telemedicine. And I think the most exciting thing was, if I had known at 21 when I had cancer what my DNA profile looked like, I would have switched my diet immediately. It took me getting cancer and failing and failing and failing until it was a lot of trial and error. So I don't want you to have to go through. Now, people say that maybe cancer was the worst thing that could have happened to me. It was actually the best thing that could ever happen to me, because it made me sit up. Most of us, it takes a health crisis to make us pay attention. And I sure hope that you don't let yourself get to that critical point before you pay attention. So we're glad you're here to learn a little bit more about your DNA and how you can be preemptive.
Yeah, and really incorporate it into whatever health goal it is, right? The goal, I always say the goal is lazy medicine. You do the least to get the most, and DNA
Sure.
certainly shortcuts that. Yeah. All right, Felicia, again, for people that OR is Oregon, thank you in the chat. I appreciate it for the Canadian. Felicia, though, as I'm getting a geography lesson, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Felicia. I'm glad to be back. I'm from TX, that's Texas, for you Canadians, the big state. But I am an IFBB Pro figure competitor and a certified NASM personal trainer. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm a gym rat, and as in the guy gym world, I'm a meathead. So I'm all things sweating and gyms and the nitty gritty. So I'm ready to get started. Let's talk about the subject tonight.
Yeah, and I wonder if the powers that can be, if they can just bring up the results from the quiz, because I would love, before we kind of step into the conversation, I really want to make sure that we're grounded in what we want to talk about. So we asked our audience, what are your goals when you think about personalized diet and nutrition? And we have a really happy split here. So the primary goal within 35% of our audience is weight loss or weight management. So I think that definitely can offer, we have some thoughts there, especially nuance within the DNA that we can offer. Coming in with a happy tie, oh, actually a three-way tie, is going to be maintaining or building muscles and strength, so physical fitness. There's also a goal of improving energy, so generalized fatigue. And then lastly, 22% of you guys said other. And I wonder if those that said other could be a little bit more specific in the chat. I think we have a lot that we can jump into just simply based on the first three, but we're really curious kind of what those others are, and we want to make sure that we're addressing that as we go through. So please, in the chat group, be it to everyone, be it to us, let us know. But let's kick it off with kind of the crowd favorite, the crowd majority, weight loss and maintenance. Dr. Steph, given your nutrition, Felicia, given you are in bodybuilding and kind of all things fitness, I'm sure you see this goal and this come through your offices quite often. Where do you, especially, again, we're grounding in the specifics of the genetics. Where, Dr. Steph, do you start? So you have someone that comes to you with their DNA profile. Where on earth do you start when they say my goal is also weight loss?
Well, so one of the first things that I want to talk to them about is I really love for you to get regular blood sugar numbers. And I think many of you already understand that when your blood sugar is stable, then and especially if it's in a stable range, blood sugar above 120 kicks off insulin. When we kick off insulin, insulin is a storage hormone. So we're going to pull that sugar out and store it as fat. Okay. And then when we're in our burn zone, kind of 80 to 100, then we're in that burn zone, and then the body will use the excessive fats and sugars and mobilize them properly. But if we get below the 80 mark, then we go into starvation mode, and the body will then start going, I've got to hold on to all of this because I am concerned. So when I look at DNA, one of the things that I want to look at is the different genes that we have that are an increased risk for, blood sugar disorders, type 2 diabetes. I mean, the statistics of between 60 to 70% of the population being obese and overweight leads to saying the foods that people are eating are not stabilizing blood sugar. That blood sugar is spiking. They go into a massive insulin response. So if you've gotten your DNA profile and you know that you have the TCF7L2 in that genotype, you've got a GG, a GT, or a TT. The GG is going to give you an optimal insulin response and a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes. Well, if you're mixed like I am, I'm a GT, then I have a suboptimal insulin response. Now, what is that going to look like? Well, a suboptimal insulin response is even if I have a little bit too much of something that doesn't sit right with my diet, I will go quick up and then an immediate crash, and I get tired and I get sluggish, and maybe my jeans don't fit as comfortable.
Mhm.
And so I have had to go learn over the years that there's a wonderful book called French Women Don't Get Fat. And it's because they have a 3-bite rule. They'll eat anything, but 3 bites. 1 bite is it worth my time? Because every bite either heals or hurts. Okay.
Mhm.
I want you to think about that. Really listen to that. Every bite heals or hurts. So it doesn't mean you have to be strict, and you can never have something. But if you take 1 bite, is it worth it? Because there's some beautiful pedophores. And you look at them and go, oh, they're pretty to look at, but I'm not going to waste my calorie or my blood sugar on that. But if there's something fabulous, you have a second bite, and that second bite is, oh my gosh, this is as good. And what's it doing for my body? And the third bite, and then you push it away. Well,
Yeah.
I had to adopt that because you have a giant piece of cake and it's so good. And I am not someone in my DNA who can resist. If I have cookies in the house, they call to my thighs, but if I don't see them, if they're out of sight, out of mind, I don't
Mhm.
crave them. And if I have enough protein and fat to create my favorite hormone, which is cholecystokinin, which creates satiation. I love to say that fast.
Okay.
Cholecystokinin.
I'm impressed
So,
you can get all the syllables out.
yeah. So look at your TCF7L2 and look, do you have a suboptimal insulin response or a partial, or are you pretty good?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing to look at is one of the other ones that I'm really concerned about is an SLC30A8, because this is associated with the fasting glucose and zinc levels. If you have higher zinc levels, this is an AA, AG, GG. And again, mine is mixed. So when I can have reduced fasting glucose if I have up my zinc intake. Well, why is zinc so important? Zinc is great for the immune system. Zinc is great for healthy living and longevity. So what I've learned is I eat a lot of oysters, okay? And I keep my blood sugar range really tight. Now, I am 60 years old and I weigh about 8 pounds more than I did in high school. So I can get down to my high school weight, but then I look gaunt. And the thing that I
So close. Yeah, she'll come back in a
want to
second
do,
for everyone's
Felicia, talk about,
awareness.
hey,
Oh, Dr. Steph, you might need to repeat yourself there. You cut out. And just for our audience's awareness, Dr. Steph's internet, by the graces of the gods, cuts out every once in a while. So we'll just have you start again from kind of the top of zinc.
yeah. So zinc is really critical for the immune system. I'm sorry, I live out in the sticks. Actually, I'm not sorry. I love living out in the sticks, but we're having a big storm. And so as much as I would like to, my stuff doesn't always stick. One of the things I said about the gene is if we look at the SLC30A8, AA would be associated with increased fasting glucose levels. And significant associated with a response with zinc intake. I have the mixed AG, and if you have the GG, you have no dependency on your fasting glucose and zinc. So I have to increase zinc, and especially as we've learned in the last 4 years with all the viral stuff going on, zinc is critical for, it's like birth control pills for zinc. So if we can stabilize your blood sugar, reduce that body fat, keep the insulin sensitive, not only does the weight loss naturally occur, but then when I up my zinc, then my autoimmunity goes down and my overall immunity goes up.
Yeah, I like that. So one of your first points when you jump into kind of reviewing someone's DNA is really focused on insulin regulation and how they're adapting to that. I like that. I like that. I think I always struggle when I take a consult, where do we start in the sense of normalizing appetite, right? Because we know the food systems are really set up to keep you hungry, and we don't want to shame for that. And so sometimes I'll jump into some of like the FTOs and the MC-M6, which really speak to some of those cravings. And then separately in the one gene, I wonder if you could just speak a little bit to this, Dr. Steph, is AMY1, because I think when we talk about carbohydrate, in particular weight loss, that's the one that was a little bit, I don't think purposely missed over, but I think it contributes a lot to the conversation when we're talking about carbohydrate, insulin, and kind of that goal of weight loss.
Sure. So an AMY1 gene is, how does your body respond to a good starch? Do you have good starch metabolism? Do you have poor starch metabolism? So it's a TT, AT, and AA. So a good starch metabolism, which again, this is the gene that I carry, is associated with it. I can eat some starches, and I don't have a problem with my weight gain. I have reduced association with, I can have some carbs and not have weight gain. Now, I'm a celiac, as many of you may remember, so I don't eat wheat, I don't eat rye, I don't eat barley, I don't eat anything with gluten. So I limit my starches, because I do see that when I have a lot of starches, I have that weight gain. But one of the great things about the AMY gene is if you put a cracker or something starchy in your mouth, how quickly does it taste super sweet to you? How quickly does it break down? How quickly do you feel like, instant, lift? If it's, people say, I don't crave starches, a lot of them have that TT. The AA, unfortunately, is a poor starch metabolism, increased association with starch consumption, and increased association with weight gain. So people who, do you remember when it used to say, Lay's potato chips, you can't eat just one? Well, what we didn't realize at that AMY1 gene, somebody has the potato chips, they can't stop eating them, they crave them, then that starch consumption spikes the blood sugar and it all packs on. And then, people say, I just look at a bag of cookies and I gain 5 pounds. So, you do have to be very aware of your insulin response, your carbohydrate response. And, I'd love to talk about later, because I know that Felicia's really educated on this, and I've got my own opinions, my own experience. But when we look at fat consumptions with weight gain, fat doesn't necessarily make you fat, and yet everybody who's trying keto doesn't necessarily lose the dozens of pounds that one person does. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we could go into there.
And I think that's kind of one of the beautiful elements of certain genes that really tell us of the trendy diets. Is our body going to respond well, right? Because we've within these, Felicia was here for these conversations. We asked the question of our audience, what diets have you tried? And it's full across the spectrum because it's so trendy. And Felicia, I can imagine, I'm thinking especially to those people whose goal is more muscle maintenance, muscle gain, how difficult the past few years may have been, where carbohydrates have kind of been this, oh, don't you dare even look at them. And yet we know that while we need to have them in moderation, they are really important when it comes to certain fitness goals. Can you speak to that, especially having been a fitness trainer who's witnessed this kind of anti-carb movement that's starting to shift a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have to have carbs. I know that they've been such the bad, don't eat. And I know a lot of people who have quit carbs and lost tons of weight. But the problem is once they reach their goal and they're like, okay, I'll have some chips again. Well, then they tend to just gorge, and then the weight comes back plus some. I have so many people with that. And honestly, I just tell people it's the right kind of carbs. I personally, when competing, eat oats, red potatoes, sweet potatoes, things that stay with me instead of the fast digesting carb, carbs are a good thing. They're what, it's kind of like putting gas in the car. It's what gives us energy, and you have to have them, but it's all portion sized. I'm not eating a bowl of carbs. I'm eating like 1/4 of a cup, but I'm also eating it throughout the day.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important. And not all carbs are a bad carb. You know, they serve us very well to give us energy to be able to make us function.
Yeah. And I think the tricky of it is so much of this carbs is in reaction to in the 80s and 90s, we said, well, fat is the villain. So we stripped fat out of absolutely everything, but it still needed to taste good. So we tossed a lot of sugar and carbohydrates and now the almost reaction to that has been, you know, now that we got all these empty, quick processing, non kind of carbs that stick with you, measure out the way they respond to your body. Now everyone then like pulled away from carbohydrates, and the issue wasn't carbohydrates per se, it was just more the way the food industry was infusing them in and really propagating a lot of effectively supporting the creation of diabetes within a lot of people, insulin resistance and incredible weight gain, right?
I think it's also totally portion control. People don't know what a serving is versus just sit down and eat. If you look at the box and see what the serving is, it's probably a lot different than what you actually put on your plate. You got to be very mindful, you know. And when it comes to carbs, I've always said shop on the outside of the grocery store. Don't go the inside's where all the processed stuff is, where all the box stuff is, all the junk is. The outside is where you're going to find all your nutritional stuff that's really good for you.
And knowing yourself too, I think, I wonder maybe Dr. Steph, if you want to speak a little bit to FTO or MCM6, because those are genes that will really speak to, you know, the genetics of craving, of how you feel satisfied. And it's not to say it's not impossible for these people with suboptimal profiles to get to that point. It's just they're more inclined towards some of those, you know, disproportionate eating styles to having that serving and then going up for 5 others. And so I think it's important that as we talk about diet and nutrition, we also talk about that experience, that satiety experience of food.
Well, and so the FTO is really associated with what we call postprandial satiety. So the postprandial satiety means I've eaten my meal. Postprandial means after your meal. How satisfied are you? When you have, it's a TT, AT, and AA on your risk profile. If you're TT, then that is a normal reduced risk of obesity. It's like, I can eat a meal and feel satisfied. Those of us who don't have that optimum, we eat a meal and we go, I just need a little bite of something. Or you have people who have the AA. So I'm an AT. If you have people that have AA and they finish eating and they're like, I'm ready for my next meal. So Felicia, how do you manage when someone, because I heard you say, I only eat a quarter cup, but I'm eating throughout the day. How do you handle for people that have this FTO gene that say, I eat, but I'm not satisfied when I'm done? And how do you help them with feeling satisfied and not feeling deprived? They're trying to feed their body, but they just like, I just can't get enough. I'm just not there yet.
Well, I think then it goes back to portions again. What are they eating that's not making them full? Because, and if you're eating like every 3 hours, if it takes you that and your portions are small, then you're gonna get full. You know, it's the eating, the continuous eating that our bodies keep going to make us satisfied. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have said, you know, eat a small bite. If you're like just craving, and I do this myself, say you're craving a cupcake, I will literally, no joke, I will literally go to the sink, turn on the water, I will eat a cupcake and I drop it in the sink, because the bite, I'm like, okay, but the rest of it goes down the sink. It's water, it's done. It's you know, you can't pick it back up. I'm human. But so there's small things that you can do to keep satisfied. But also, I also tell people, sometimes when you're not satisfied, it may be lack of water. You may just be thirsty.
Yeah.
So drink some water with it. Drink a lot of water. We should be drinking a lot of water anyway. But that usually fills you up and will satisfy you, you know. That's what I would say.
So I actually tell people not to drink a whole lot while they're eating, which is the opposite of what a lot of restaurants, can we feed, drink. I actually tell them to drink a lot before they eat, primarily water or caloric beverages, because what that does, in case somebody doesn't know, is that sets your gastric juices up to start producing the stomach acid. So if you're half an hour to 45 minutes before you eat, having more water, then you sit down to eat and you restrict, you've got that gastric juice in your stomach. Now you're digesting your food, and then you can wait a little bit and have some after, or have small sips. Krista, how do you think about that whole drinking during, dinner or a meal versus before and after?
I find I'm a little bit controversial in the sense that I find by and large people do not drink enough water. And so there's an element of, I will encourage you to drink whenever you feel ready and able to drink. I see some of that. I really appreciate the logic, in particular, the meal prep. I think most North Americans kind of treat food as something I must do. It's something, they're eating on the run. They're not really appreciating their food. And so I like the idea of leveraging water to kind of come back, calm down, ground, and appreciate that food's coming into the body, and give that body some time to prep, right? Remember that digestion and taking food in, generating those acids, generating all of the energy to actually extract from food, right? There needs to be some preparation in the body for that. And so I like that ritual in regards to kind of getting things ready. In particular, if you toss a little bit of lemon in that water, right? To really encourage the acid. Acid begets acid in the body.
So there's actually an interesting study, told you I ate oysters, down in the Gulf Coast. There was some researchers that found people went out and they ate like the first season oysters, and a whole group of them got sick, but a whole group of them that ate at the same restaurant didn't get sick. And the interesting part of this case study was those that sat and had a cocktail beforehand, so the alcohol or the water, stimulated the stomach acid to be produced, stimulated the liver to begin a gentle detox. They then went and ate the oysters, but because the digestive juices were going and because there was the increase in that, none of them got food poisoning. The people who were very prompt, had a reservation, slid in quickly, ate their oysters, and drank more after, all got sick. And I thought that was like, wow, so really you need to be the ones that go have the drink beforehand, relax a little bit, have your dinner, and then the whole experience of being there and having the conversation and feeling the satiated.
And this jumps back to your comment at the top of the hour around French women, right? What French woman do you know that eats well in her car? It's more an event where you're going, you're enjoying, you're with community, you're with friends. It's food with purpose, as opposed to, I must get through my day. And there's a little bit of ambivalence towards the food. Yeah. I think I'm seeing in the comments as well, just kind of to come back a little bit to strategies around how we think through portion size and how we're more appreciative of the food. And Patricia made a good comment, and I think this is an interesting one. She talks about staging of food, or like the order in which you're kind of bringing in the food, and that can shift the reception in the body. And I think this gets a little bit to your point, Dr. Steph, in regards to readying the body for it. So I know there's some research, and a lot of, I think, clinical anecdotal research that talks about, if you ready the body, especially for carbs, so that you're consuming the fiber within, or the veg within your meal, the protein or the fats first, and kind of leaving the carbs for last. So we get the body ready, in particular, a lot of the insulin that can shift profiles as well as satiety experience for people. Yeah. Do either of you ladies play with that kind of the staging of food?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a competitor, you're going to eat before you go and you're going to eat after you go. There's lots of reasons. Now, I have I'm 56, y'all know. I've changed my diet because I'm not competing full time anymore. So I'm fasting. So I actually can do a workout fasting stage, and then I eat afterwards. But I always make sure I eat afterwards. You still have to feel your body, but it does look different at different stages for different people. And some people can't and can't eat it all before they work out. And some people have to, or they get sick.
Mm.
So I think it varies in the individual.
Mm. Yeah, no, fair enough.
There used to be a book, and I'm remembering it's called Fit Something, and it was the diamonds. And they talked about food combinations, like a protein with a vegetable, but then not having a starchy carb. And I'll tell you that food combining did wonders for me very early on. And I don't always stick to it now, but I know when I do. I mean, my diet consists of mainly Fit for Life. Thank you, Carolina. Yeah, it was Fit for Life. I just, some of these oldies are really the goodies, you know, like Felicia and me, for all you youngies. But the beautiful part of that is that that food combining made it easier for your body to digest. And one of the things that I think a lot of us are low on is digestive enzymes. And that leads to many of our microbiomes in our gut. And I saw a couple other people were talking about, you know, taking digestive enzymes and timing their foods, which I think is critically important. And I think you lose, if I'm remembering right, Krista, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you lose 10% of your digestive enzyme ability to produce the digestive enzymes every decade. So by the time you're getting into 50s and 60s and 70s, you're down to 25 to 30% of your total capacity, and that's on the best day. So I think people starting in their 30s and 40s need to be taking digestive enzymes. And again, as a pharmacist by training, I see so many people on proton pump inhibitors, you know, the PPIs, the omeprazole, the pantoprazole, the azipramole. And I was one of the original clinical researchers in the H2 blockers, which was the Zantac and famotidine, which is Pepcid, Tagamet. We would go into the OR, pull the gastric juices before, you know, a famotidine and then after a famotidine and see it shut down. I actually prefer the H2 blockers over the proton pump inhibitors. And the reason is proton pump inhibitors should be used short term for that gastric upset. But what happens is when you you lower that acid ability, then you let microbes go in and disrupt your microbiome. You don't get digested foods, and then you have gut issues. Short term, they're trying to find something out, that's great. But long term, digestive enzymes and improving your gut microbiome is going to do 100 times better on healing your body.
So to offer a little bit of context of the glorious pharmacogenomic lesson that Dr. Steph has just offered us, there's a lot of people that will struggle with something called GERD or acid reflux. So a lot of pain here, sometimes a cough. There's a few different ways it will present. And pharmaceutically, there's something called proton pump inhibitors, which is there's a lot of cells within your stomach that will release acid. So the short-term fix of this should be, well, if you're experiencing this acid coming up and this pain, these ulcers, whatever it might be, we're going to stop the acid production. And originally it was always studied in the kind of 2, 3, 4 week period, allow some healing, allow some things to calm down, and then we'll take you off. But a lot of doctors leave people on these medications that were only intended for short term. And it causes a lot of downstream impact because a lot of what Dr. Steph said about, hey, have some water, have maybe a little bit of lemon or whatever it might be to prime the juices. If your stomach is blocked from creating that acid that then lends to the other digestive juices, not only are you not digesting your food well, it, to her point, is kind of impacting the biome, which is something we really haven't talked about much yet. And I know we've promised this group a session on the biome later, but it disrupts how you're digesting, right? I think the one thing we haven't yet talked about, we've talked about a few genes of how they impact how you metabolize or bring in food. We haven't talked about the contribution of biome, which to an extent is almost like nullifies certain genes in how impactful what your biome is. We can take a sample of your biome and largely we can kind of tell where you're going to sit on that metabolic profile based on the little buggies and how they're contributing to what's going on in your body. So just a little bit of context there, because I love Dr. Steph. She jumps down these holes that are so informative. Because Steph, what is the percentage of America that is on a PPI right now? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know, but I can tell you that at least of the clients that I see, at least 33%. And often I'll say to them, how long have you been on this?
Mhm.
And they're like, 2 years, 6 years. And they'll be changing them up and down.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do you change it? Well, it no longer works. It's like, because the body is so smart. You've shut down all this acid and it goes, I need acid. I'm trying to get it back. And then it will shift. And then they have to switch, to a stronger, but stronger means more side effects. Now, I'll
Yeah.
tell you, side effects is a misnomer. There is no side effect. It's a direct effect. It's just not the direct effect it was marketed for. So if you think about it, then all of a sudden, oh, you're having side effects. No, it's a direct effect, and your body's going, no, I'm trying to tell you something. So what we want to look at is what's getting beneath that. And that's what the DNA can really do. And that's what, overlapping the DNA with your lab results and looking at, kind of the whole picture. What are you putting in? When do you get that burn? What does your DNA say? And what could we do differently? And that's why so many people who come to functional genomic practitioners go, my doctor says I'm fine, just wants me to take double the strength. But they're like, I know I'm not fine. I can't be fine because I hurt all the time, whether their body aches or whether their stomach aches or whether, and I love that more and more people realize that they must take control of their own health. Just as Felicia said, she's taking control of her own body. She will take a bite. She will indulge herself, but then she gets rid of the evidence, so that she can't go back in the cabinet.
The blasphemy of destroying a cupcake, Monsieur.
But you know what? I'm the same way. I will eat a whole meal and I will get to the end and go, I have a sweet tooth right here. And I will go get a small piece of dark chocolate. Hershey's is not dark. No, you may not. I will get like a 75 or 85% cacao. I actually buy roasted cacao beans and I will have those, but I can't have those too late at night because the theobromine will keep me awake. Yeah. But I'll have a little of that, or I'll have some coconut. I love big flake coconut and I can chew on that. Because some of our other genes are related to satiety and chewing, and I happen to be a munchy,
Yeah. So what she's referring to is this illustrious MCM6, and so we've nicknamed this the snacky gene. So people with the snack or suboptimal presentations of the snacky gene, it really means that their mouth kind of needs more entertainment, textual entertainment. So if we were to compare two meals and kind of take the nutritional value out of them, one meal is like a bowl of oatmeal with maybe some almond butter on top. And then the other meal, a breakfast meal, is like eggs and sweet potato and stir-fried greens and maybe a little bit of fruit. If we take the nutrition out of it, the oatmeal and almond are kind of the same taste and same texture. It's a little bit boring for the mouth, where compared to the other meal where you have this variety, not only do you have different tastes, you have different textures, different experiences. And so even if the calories were equal in both meals, for many people, especially with this suboptimal MCM6 presentation, the meal with more interest is going to feel more filling because their mouth and their brain effectively are more entertained. So when we kind of go back to the idea of portion sizes, sometimes it's also about when you sit down to that meal, making sure it's varied and interesting, because that will keep your mind a little bit more intrigued and satiated for longer, independent of what the actual calorie and macro content of the meal is. I'm growing mindful of time because I want to make sure we have time for our questions and answers. But one thing we haven't addressed as an audience, and Dr. Steph, I wonder if you can kick us off with this, or maybe even Felicia, because keto has been the rage for so very long. I wonder if we can quickly talk on higher fat diets, in particular genes that speak to them. So kind of maybe Dr. Steph, if you want to, when someone comes to you and says, hey, I want to do keto, what are the genes that you're considering and that might guide whether a person is appropriate for a higher fat diet or not?
Well, it's interesting because what we want to do is we want to make sure that you can digest. We've been talking about the digestive enzymes, and we've got to make sure that you can digest your fat. And so we've got to look at when we look at your fat digestion, The other thing I want you to remember, that's your APOA2. APOA2 is associated with weight gain in response to fat consumption. So you've got an AA, an AG, or a GG. AA is no associated weight gain with fat consumption. GG would be the opposite, is weight gain and altered ghrelin production in response to saturated fat. Again, I'm right in the middle, kind of that borderline girl. I always had a little bit of a foot in each camp, you know. The beautiful part of that is I can dial it up and dial it down. I actually do better with more fat, and many people actually do, because that fat stabilizes. And we're talking about the presentation of eating your meal. When you eat fat and protein first, and you have that layer in your gut, and then that starts stabilizing the blood sugar, you can add some carbs on top of that. So, but because I don't digest fat completely or effectively, when I was trying to do this whole carb, that didn't work for me. The other problem is if you're using rancid fats, which is a huge deal, we've got to look at your clearance. Are you, if you like your GSTP1, if you have optimal enzyme function and you can clear out what we call ROSs, reactive oxidation stress, or reactive oxidation species, when you've got a lot of rancid fats, most olive oil, and I will tell you corn oil, soy oil, regular vegetable oil, most of it's rancid. You're putting these reactive oxygen species into your body. And if you are a GG on your GSTP1 and you're all keto and you've got this high fat, but you can't react, you are going to age yourself so rapidly, because you've seen a lot of people that lose a tremendous amount of weight and they just look hard. They look ridden hard. They don't have the softness. They don't have that fresh vitality in their eyes. Yes, they've gotten skinny, but at what cost? We don't want that rapid aging. So I've taken all seed oils out of my house, and Felicia, I would be interested to see if you do, and what you have learned personally. When I used keto, I loved it. I love like the bulletproof coffee kind of concept, butter and MCT oil, but I could only do it for so long. And then I do kind of short-term bursts if I need it, but it's not a long-term for my body type by any means. So Felicia, what have you seen with your clients?
Well, I was going to ask you, I'm curious, when you say short-term burst, are you meaning like a break, like a short break? And then is that what you mean by short-term burst?
No, short-term burst, I will use it for 2 months, maybe 3 months, but then I go back to mainly my meat and greens, Mediterranean, gluten-free, primarily dairy-free. I use raw dairy because, again, being in the middle of the hicks or the sticks, I can get raw dairy, and I actually do well with raw dairy. So I raise my own chickens. So I have farm fresh chickens every day. I have milk that is 2 days old, fresh cream. I get colostrum. Are you guys ready for this? I get colostrum that is a couple days old. I freeze it in little trays and I chop it up. My puppies, well, I have gigantic dogs. I have 75-pound pits, had all sorts of allergies because we lived near a river. And they were talking about on chronic allergy medicine. I started having them get the raw colostrum. Almost all their allergies have gone away because it heals the gut. So between having those things, and so if I feel bloated, if my inflammation goes way up, I go on a keto-ish type diet, which leans me out, gets my insulin stable, rockets my brain, and then do very low glycemic load carbs.
That's exactly what I was wondering. And that's exactly what I recommend also, to kind of shock your system, so you do it for a while, your body gets used to it, and then kind of give yourself a break also. But, and so your body responds again, because even with the diet that I do, which is the same day after day after day, I do portions differently. Like I'll go 3 weeks with this size, and then I'll go 3 weeks with a different size, so that my body is constantly changing.
Keep it fresh.
I think that's a great idea. That's exactly what I would recommend to any client. That's the thing that I love about the DNA test, because without it, I have clients coming to me and go, I don't know why I can't lose weight, or I can gain weight, or I don't know what. And we start this workout program, and it's, again, 80% of it's food. So I have to go back and go, okay, so what is it you're eating? Tell me what you use. Tell me what, and I'm talking, when I say tell me what you use, I'm talking to, what do you put in your pan to cook your eggs? How much of it do you put in your pan? What do you do as a snack? Do you grab 3 bags, 3 chips, bag of chips?
Well, what kind of pan are you using? Is it Teflon coated and you're getting BPA and hormone disrupting?
It's everything. I mean, it's literally everything. And I don't, I try not to stress my client out so much. Like, let's just start here. And as we learn and grow, we can change. I don't want it to be overwhelming to my client, because any change is progress. Anything that you're going to change to better yourself is progress. So I'm like, let's start here, see how it works. It's a marathon, right? A marathon. It's not a sprint. So we're in this for the long haul, and let's better ourselves and better our bodies. But I totally agree with you. Yes, I think doing it for 3 or 4 weeks, weaning off and coming back, I think is very, very healthy.
Well, and I would love, Krista, I'm going to hijack it for a second. I would love for you to talk about muscle gain, because I know for me that maintaining muscle mass is critical for healthy aging. And so many people say, well, I walk, or I do this, or I do that, but that does not maintain. And now I'm seeing, my parents are in their mid to late 80s, and I'm seeing they've both been lean most of their lives. They're generally healthy. They're, very few problems you have to deal with, but they're losing all their muscle mass, and they can't get off a toilet. They can't get into a truck. They can't get off a sofa without somebody pulling them up, because they've lost their core, they've lost their glutes, they've lost their thighs. And I truly see the old farmers. I'm old farm stock. I see the old farmers that get out and move stuff and move hay bales and walk and lift heavy things are in far better shape, as far as maintaining their muscle mass than most people who have disposable income that just sit around and play on their phones and stuff.
Well, you said it. It's movement. Those farmers are moving. They're, even if they're not in the gym, they're lifting, they're moving, they're squatting, and unfortunately, the older population, I guess I'm considered in that. I don't like it, but
own it, baby, fly that flag. You look fabulous.
And there's a lot of people. There's a lot of support for you in the chat here. There's a lot of people praising you, ladies, for your holding your age so beautifully well.
Well, thank you. It's, it's the smoke and mirrors, and it's the light.
There needs to be pride with that age. You've earned it.
Smoke and mirrors and the lighting is what I say. It's all magical. No, but
yourself.
As a senior, it's movement, and you can do anything, even if it's sitting in a chair. I mean, I can give you exercises sitting in a chair. You don't have to go to a gym. You're going to have to move. You can stand and sit in a chair, stand, sit in a chair. There are things that you can do at home to get stronger. Absolutely. Absolutely.
While you're on a webinar, I love that her internet decided to not cooperate.
It stopped her right as she was in the squat. I know. Yeah. And that's what it is. It's also protein.
Yeah.
People are not getting enough protein. That's what's keeping our muscles. That's what makes our muscles grow. I know a lot of senior citizens will or people in general, well, I'm going to have a bag of popcorn as a snack. No, we got to have, first and foremost, never eat a carb alone. That is the biggest, don't ever do it. You have to have a protein with it. The way your body digests it, it's much happier if you have a protein with a carb. Never eat a carb alone. Your body digests it differently. So I'm always like, what if we added like some cheese to it, or some peanut butter, or a piece of, turkey meat, or let's just get a protein, some nuts. Let's do that. And that's what I say. You can't quit moving, but you can still move in your chair. If you're like, I don't know where to start. Well, let's start at home in a chair. Let's 10 minutes. Let's get some soup cans out. Let's get some bottled waters out. Let's get something, any kind of resistance. You have to have resistance to build muscle. You have to. And it's easier than than people think. It's just, you've got to be determined and do it. But
Yeah.
it's easy. It doesn't take long, and the body responds really quickly to movement. It loves it. We're made to move. We're made to get bigger and stronger. And I've always said, live the width, not the length of our life. We're here to live the width. So it's never too late.
So how many grams of protein do you recommend, or what kind of ratios do you recommend for a lot of your clients, especially those that, because you've been in the fitness, and looking fabulous and rocking your bikini, which we're going to be doing down in Austin soon.
I know, I'm so
We're going
excited.
down to a conference together, and Felicia and I are going to be in the booth. We're going to be at what used to be KetoCon, and now it's
Hack your health. Hack your health. You're close.
Actually, hack your health.
I'm so
health.
excited
You're
that
so
you are
close.
coming
Get
to
you down
Austin.
and hack your health, and you can have time. But I actually am preparing so that I can be out at the pool with Felicia and not embarrass myself.
Oh.
I doubt you would be embarrassing. You probably look fabulous. But yeah, I'm so excited about Austin.
Bodies are
Glad
not
y'all are coming.
embarrassing. Bodies are
Great.
not embarrassing. Yeah,
No.
but please jump into that protein question, because I'd love to hear your opinion on it. And then I'm gonna also jump into kind of transitioning us into the questions and answers. Because I'll follow that up with another question that centralizes around protein. Because I think we've talked about carbs, talked about the fatty fats, and now we're going to be talking about the proteins.
They say at least 0.5 gram per pound that you weigh. I recommend 1 pound or 1 gram of protein per pound you weigh. So that's the rule for me. I know it's hard to get to, so you have to be creative. If it's protein shakes, if it's adding collagen to a protein shake, some nuts. There's a lot of kind of hacks to get there, but into every meal that you eat, make sure you have protein in every meal. But yes, 1 gram of protein per pound is my rule. I know that there's across the board many other takes on it.
Dr. Steph, do you vary that kind of rule of thumb or that heuristic across different phases of the life? Like, do you suggest that people in different stages of their life decrease that, or do you kind of like that consistency throughout the life? I know there's a lot of opinions, so feel free to offer several.
Sure.
Yeah, I do like that rule, but you've got to be able to digest it. And we talked about being able to digest it, because if you're not digested, if you don't break it down into the individual parts, then you can't build back up. So I also I'm leery of a lot of the protein powders, especially the soy-based protein powders, because of the hormone disruption. And that feminizes, especially if you have some of the genes for estrogen toxicity and things. So I'm cautious about that. So I do like people to take digestive enzymes. I do like them to take branched chain amino acids. I find that if I eat a smaller amount of, say, meat, whether it's a turkey or a chicken breast or eggs, but I'll eat like 6 eggs. You guys may not believe this. I'll eat 6 eggs for breakfast. Okay. Now, most of the time I fast, so my breakfast is later. So it's more of a brunch or lunch. But I will feel very satisfied. Then I can get to late in the day where I have my second big meal. So I used to eat like Felicia, where I'd eat every 2 to 3 hours to stabilize my blood sugar. I now do well doing at least a 14-hour fast. And then I will have 2 big meals and 1 little snack in between. And mine are always protein and green kind of things. So when I found that works well for my body, and I can take those branched chain amino acids and I will instantly see my abs get ripped. I will instantly see, it is true. I'll instantly see
my
triceps, and because I have a homestead, I'm hauling water for the chickens, or I'm hauling feed for the dogs, or that kind of stuff. And I always brace my stomach for my core and work, proper lifting technique, and then really pulled out of all of those, how can I double and triple the effort I'm making to really pay off in my body? Because I don't have a great gym. I used to have a great gym when I lived in Southern California. And now that I'm, out in the middle of nowhere, my acreage is my gym.
Your chickens are your gym. You and Beth have a lot to talk about. All right, so I want to follow this up. Rita's asked us a question here. And again, this is to deal with protein because we haven't really touched on that yet. So her question is, what do you recommend if your DNA report says 1 portion of meat and 2 portions of fish per week, but you're diagnosed with a disease that requires higher protein? So before we dig into that question, I do want to contextualize how our reporting speaks to protein. So as you've heard so far from Dr. Steph, from myself, from Felicia, we have genes that look very specifically at how you metabolize, i.e. how does your body deal with carbohydrates and fats, as well as genes that look at how do you digest it, right? How do you get it from your gut into your body? When it comes to protein, unfortunately, we don't have genes yet that very specifically tell us this. So short of a disease or short of just really finding clinical impact, because that's the really only criteria we have when it comes to what genes do we bring into our reporting. Does it have clinical impact? So if I have one gene presentation, Dr. Steph has the opposite, right? Does that change the clinical direction for us? And we haven't really found genes around protein that offer that really clear clinical differentiation. So when we look at proteins in our report and where this kind of insight of be mindful of your protein consumption is actually not around protein, but more around, unfortunately, what typically accompanies protein in North America, right? So when we think of protein in North America, quite often it's more the processed form. It's forms that come from farming practices that don't necessarily beget the best protein sources. So we have, cows that are very much corn-fed. We have chickens that are injected with this, that, and the third. The protein, unfortunately, that lands on the average North American's plate is not all that clean. And so knowing that, the suggestion is being mindful, not necessarily because of the protein itself, but more the accoutrement, the extras that come alongside it. And so Dr. Steph, a little bit, when she was talking about fat and how you receive some of those seed oils, she was talking about how well do you clear out from a detox perspective. So this is a little bit more what the report is getting at. It's actually not saying don't do protein. It's more saying be mindful of your sourcing. And you really need to be mindful of, especially when you choose a protein source that isn't necessarily clean, it has a lot of downstream impacts and your ability to clean it up. Dr. Steph, do you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you did it beautiful. I think that's really a powerful way to manage it. Mhm.
Yeah. So in your report, if you're looking for some of those genes that we referenced there, really we're looking to our family of GST genes, okay? And a little bit SOD and a few other guys, but if you're going into kind of your inflammation reports, it will much more in a detailed way break it down. So I would not at all say shy away from proteins. It's more growing mindful of the sourcing of your protein and the chain with which, how clean is it when it comes to you. Yeah, protein rarely, except in certain genetic conditions or certain health conditions, rarely is an enemy to us. It's can you digest it and can you deal with kind of the accoutrement, the toxic load, unfortunately, that our food chains gift us. Yeah, okay. All right, Rita, I hope that was helpful for you. We're having, let's see here. So we have a few questions here from Michelle. So Michelle is someone with a suboptimal AMY1, so that being really the guy that helps with some of the digestion of carbohydrates. She's asking, does enzymes help with that? And how do you time your enzymes? So Dr. Steph, when you suggest enzymes to people, how do you suggest the timing of that? And can enzymes, I know the answer to this, you do too, but can enzymes compensate for kind of a poor AMY1 profile?
Yeah. So AMY stands for amylase. Amylase is breaking down those carbohydrates. Amylase starts in your mouth. The number one thing that you can do is chew more completely. Most people chew, swallow. Chew, swallow. My grandparents used to say, you got to chew 30 times before you can swallow, and then it become all liquidized. But the amylase will be stimulated to start breaking that down and go down in the gut. If you don't have enough amylase, then taking a digestive enzyme that has amylase in it is going to help you break it down. If you are suboptimal and it spikes your blood sugar because you are poor at reducing the amylase and poor at reducing the carbs, you definitely have to have the amylase mixed in with that. But I would also suggest you have a fat or a protein. So if you're going to have cornbread, you've got to have butter on it, baby. You know, you got to have that fat to slow it down. And then you have your lipase. There is no sense to have not just honey, because now we got sugar and sugar. Okay. You got to have a big thick thing of honey on there, or a big thick thing of butter on there to do that. So you've got to combine those. The biggest part of digesting is making sure, look at what you're having. Do you have protein? You need protease. Do you have problems with your carbs? The amylase. Do you have problems with milk or dairy, lactase? Do you have problems with fats, lipase? So each of these types of enzymes then will help break down your meal. Again, I keep my meals very simple. You've heard Felicia talk about this too, and Krista, I think you do as well. Do I love a brunch that has quinoa and maybe some sweet potato and arugula? I love all that, and maybe some sauteed onions, but then I'm going to throw a couple eggs on it, and I'm going to throw some bacon. Okay, so I've got my protein and I have, you know, some good fat, but I've got all that texture and stuff that will last me all day. Do I do that every day? I don't do that every day. I mean, generally I fast in the day, and then my first thing is a protein on a salad. I break my fast generally with a protein and salad. So I have lots of mixed veggies and mixed lettuces, and then some type of a protein on it. That is the best way for me to maintain my blood sugar, maintain my weight, maintain my mental clarity. Mental clarity as you get older becomes one of the most powerful things that you can control. And I waited a little too long to eat today because I was doing all sorts of stuff around the house. And then all of a sudden the brain started to fade. I started getting hangry, and I knew my blood sugar was tanking. And quickly, I didn't run for any kind of carbs. You know, we had butchered some chicken not too long ago, and I had some that was in the fridge, and I'm stripping it off, you know, the bone, eating the chicken. And it wasn't more than 5 or 6 bites, and I started getting better. Add some water with some lemon juice in it. Okay, starting to feel better. Stripped all the rest of the chicken off, threw it in the stove with some water, some onions, some carrots and stuff. And so when I get done tonight, I have homemade stock and vegetables there, and that's what dinner will be. So it really is about using all of that, and in there I get all sorts of hyaluronic acid and collagen. So even if I don't have big chunks of chicken in there, I have that protein that has come from all the bones and the skin and the cartilage. And I know some people will be like, oh my God, I can't do that. But you know, I'm telling you, when you eat these whole foods, the whole foods give you so much more than these packaged partial things. And they're easy. I mean, you throw all of that in a crock pot, turn it on, let it go. At the end of the day, you come home if you've got an apartment, and then it smells so delicious and it's so good for you.
Yeah. And I know, Felicia, we've talked about this in the past of having to, especially for people who have been trying to lose weight for a long period of time, and this kind of one size fits all of eat less, exercise more isn't fitting. There needs to be a shift in the relationship we have with food, because there's a bit of a fear, right? You just heard Steph talking about, I eat bacon and eggs, right? And so for some people that brings up fear and not wanting to. And Felicia, I'm sure you've seen within your practice of having to teach people to eat again, to not be scared of certain foods because it was demonized in the past, be it fats or carbs. You can usually tell when someone grew up based on what food group they're scared of.
Oh, for sure. And don't be scared of food. Know that it was made for us. I think this is where I really push food prepping. I think food prepping is so important. Just like Dr. Steph says, she had a chicken in the fridge. If you have something that you can go to that's really good for you and grab it, you're good to go. It's when you get home, and I've been there, you get home and you're starving, and you're like, you just open the pantry and you're just like, whatever's there. And you just, That's yeah.
Angry.
It's bad. It's a bad day, but we've all been there. So
Yeah.
really, and it takes work. I mean, doing all this takes work, but you're doing it because you're bettering yourself. So if you'll food prep, if you'll always have on hand some kind of good protein, like she said, and that you can easily get, but also you can have some bacon, just don't have 7 pieces of bacon. You know what I'm saying? And don't have it every day. Just like she said, if you're gonna like on a Saturday or Sunday brunch, somebody says, let's go have brunch. Yeah, have a piece of bacon. It's okay because I'm thinking, and I'm hopefully that you've done all your workouts for the week, you've gotten all your steps in, that you can reward yourself that a piece of bacon's not going to do anything to you. Not, it won't do anything. So yeah, you gotta love food because it is good for us, even though we hate it at the same time, because that's where I go back to the sink. You put a bite, you just let it go. Turn on that water. You can't pick it back up. It's gross. So
Yeah.
it works. I'm telling you, maybe psycho, maybe that's part of me, but it works.
Hey, we love the psycho within. All right, next question, Dr. Steph, can you quickly reiterate? There's a lot of questions around the SL7, 30 zinc, kind of all that fun stuff. Can you repeat the gene? Can you repeat the presentation and just a quick snapshot of what you were saying there? Because I think people are really interested in that, but didn't catch it the first time.
I'm so sorry with my internet. Okay, so what we're talking about is when you have this gene, you've got to have an increased zinc intake. When you have the increased zinc intake, you will stabilize your blood sugar. So you've got to make sure. So it is that SLC 30 or 30 A8. If you have the AA, that is associated with increased fasting glucose. So you wake up and in the morning your blood glucose is 100 or 110 or 115. And of course your GP is going to want it below 100. Well, if you take zinc, your total zinc intake, then you've got to do on average maybe 14 milligrams. Then you're going to be able to bring that glucose down. Now, coincidentally, a lot of your multivitamins and things only have maybe 8 to 12 milligrams. With COVID, since zinc also puts viruses to sleep, and it's just the flu virus and cold viruses and COVID virus and all, we were recommending 25 and 50 milligrams daily. And with people who lost their sense of taste or developed tinnitus, which has been a real big thing post-COVID, we're recommending 50 to 100 milligrams. Now, this is not medical advice. You should check with your healthcare professional and work with them on that. But if you have this gene that shows that you're going to have less control on your blood glucose and taking a little bit of zinc, I will tell you, zinc can upset some people's stomachs. So there is liquid zinc, there's drops you can do, that goes down pretty well. There's lozenges that you can use. Some people find that goes real well. There's just tablets, a little tablet up and down, but take it with some food because your tummy will thank you if you're doing that. But it's really critical to say, do I have these fasting blood glucose levels? I wake up, my H1C, which is a 3-month running average, is creeping up. Okay, we've got to get a hold of that fasting glucose, good water intake, cutting back on those packaged and simple carbs and increasing your zinc. If you've got that that's SLC 30A8 will make a difference for you.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. And thank you for reoffering that because I think
Absolutely.
It's not commonly discussed and it's an important part, in particular, kind of that dosing schedule and the warning for the tummy. I remember the first time I tried zinc, I did a 50 milligram tablet without food. That hurt. I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
We all have stories.
An interesting thing, we used to take zinc drops and put them on your tongue, and I would do this in my practice.
Oh,
and I say, how do they taste?
Yeah.
And some people would say it tastes sweet. And I'm like, I'm sorry, that means you're completely zinc deficient. Versus if you take it, it tastes very metallic and
Yeah.
then you're repleted, which means you're full up. So there are some, if you're,
Oh, she cuts
sometimes
it
I
out.
can take anything in a shot, boom, get it down,
Yeah.
Won't do that with zinc, liquid zinc, because I
Yeah.
prefer that over sucking it. But you can get an idea of your zinc levels, kind of folk medicine, being able to gauge it by, is it sweet or is it sour for you? Because
No,
a
I
heavy
like,
metal, zinc is a metal. And so at that heavy metal, if you are repleted, tastes real metallic for you.
yeah. All right. So the next, I'm going to aggregate a few questions that I'm seeing within the question and answer period, just to make sure we can honor everyone, get everyone in. There's quite a few questions around biome within. And so the first one kind of starts off with my understanding of the microbiome is that it will change from moment to moment. So it won't necessarily be the same as like when I test it versus, when I get the results, because there's always going to be a lag between. And then there's quite a few questions around how do we go about supporting the microbiome to the end of better metabolism and weight management, et cetera, et cetera. So I will offer, it was Janice, I think, that opened up that initial question. There is a lot of truth insofar as your biome is really, really responsive to what is going on. And in the sense of, so for example, if you eat something that doesn't agree with your body, there's a huge population of bacteria that will kind of bubble up in response to that, kind of the opportunistic guys and separate. But, we also know that it is very reflective of how you recover from that kind of in the moment, right? Is really reflective of what the balance of those populations are. How do you balance that out, right? And there's some very elegant studies that really look at, especially people, I think, had otherwise a really good diet. They had McDonald's and then they tested the biome and they could quite quickly tell just based on biome response. Yeah, body knew it wasn't real food. So I would offer, while there is truth to what you're saying, I think there also has to be, a moment, if you have an otherwise really good diet, make sure you're taking a test on a day where there's nothing remarkable happening, in particular from a food perspective. And if your biome and your body's kind of a little bit more off, taking that sample, understanding what populations are going on, will be helpful. Dr. Steph, any other thoughts? Felicia, any other thoughts in regards to kind of more the testing, but also like how responsive and intelligent the biome is and how resilient the biome can be to what is going into the body?
Well, I'm just going to say, I still think it all boils down to the food that you're putting in. And is it good food? It all boils down to, is it good food or is it bad food? Is it,
I'll
is it,
challenge you a little bit. There's some studies that look at exercise in particular and how exercise can better support better biomes, right? So
well,
it's
yeah, you're moving, right? The whole body, when you're movement, your body is changing. It's circulating. It's creating endorphins. It's doing all kinds of things. So that does not surprise me one bit about biome being better. I mean, you food digest even better. Have you ever been like eating things? They always say after Thanksgiving dinner, go take a walk. Everybody's like, I gotta go take a walk because you're so full. But just even walking, how that makes you feel better, it's because your body's like, it's digesting, it's moving, it's functioning. So I'm not surprised about the biome and exercise. I'm not at all.
Well, and I've seen a few questions about how did I get rid of the cancer or what came up. So I had cervical cancer, and cervical cancer was because I had a yeast infection for 9 months straight. So for all the ladies out there who've ever had a yeast infection for a couple of days, imagine 9 months straight. Why did I have a yeast infection for 9 months straight? Is because I had too much sugar in my diet. I called myself a vegetarian, but I was a
You're a
dairytarian, a breaditarian, a dessertitarian. I had a shirt that said, eat dessert first, the world may die, the world may explode. So I did. And I had so much sugar that fed the yeast that caused the inflammation, that a chronic inflammatory state is what causes cancer. So what I had to learn was to eliminate it. I couldn't eat fruit, couldn't eat vinegars, couldn't eat. And so what I had to find for me was I had to have massive amounts of protein. I have no problem getting my, 140 grams a day kind of thing, because my body loves protein. Now, not everybody loves the Eat Right for Your Blood type, but I do find a lot of very valuable stuff there. And part of it's been poo-pooed, but I just think it was maybe poor documentation of a really good theory. I love Eat Right for Your Blood type. I'm an O blood type, protein and greens, baby. When I switched to protein and greens, took off all the condiments, didn't realize that ketchup had sugar, and I was just feeding sugar. In fact, most of us don't realize how much sugar is in our stuff. So, you know, my salads are generally a oil and vinegar or oil and lemon juice and herbs. And so something fresh there. Now I will make my own ranch, but I have all my fresh herbs and all of that. And then because I can get the raw dairy, then I will use real buttermilk, you know, and have buttermilk but I make a small one and it only lasts for a few days, but that's like such a lovely, you know, treat. And so I allow myself, a lot of people eat so many carbs a day or this stuff that wreck their biome. Now here's two big tips for you. One, don't take the same probiotic every day. Most probiotics are a single organism. Your gut has hundreds and hundreds of organisms. Here's a way you can improve your microbiome. Go hug a tree. All the bacteria, the protozoan stuff, put your face in some flowers and breathe in. You have no idea how much you've just taken into your body that will go, because all your mucous membranes, your nose, your sinuses, your throat, you know, all the way down. Okay. Yes, I will wash the vegetables that I get from the grocery store or from the garden in the summer, but I don't wash them completely. So if I know where they came from, I might do a light wash and then eat them, because I know that a little bit of dirt. They've actually done studies.
Be careful. She knows her food chain.
In with the appropriate area, but they've done studies of farm kids who played in the dirt and get dirty all the time and eat the dirt and stuff, have healthier immune systems because their microbiome is more. So if you're taking a packaged probiotic, then make sure it has 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 and rotate, go through one and then go through another. You want something that goes from the top of the gut all the way to the bottom and not just one little area. The second part of that is I am huge on fermented foods, raw sauerkraut, raw kimchi, probiotic water kefir, regular kefir, maybe a little kombucha, maybe a little too much sugar, a little too much fat in that, but no, I can't do much kombucha. But the wild fermentation, that wild yeast that's in the air that can cause like a water kefir, you can make with something that feels like a soda out of some fresh strawberries and a little water kefir, and you've got this natural fermentation that's happening. Now, if your gut's way out of whack or you have leaky gut, that's not a good thing. You can throw yourself off. But for people who just want more diversity in their microbiome and to start doing some replenishing, fermented foods are a great way to do, or rotating your probiotics is a great way to do it.
Yeah. And also being, I think, really mindful to feed your biome, right? So we have to think about, it's not just what you are eating and taking into your gut. What is your gut bacteria feeding on? So we know that's really where the importance of insoluble fiber comes in. Most of our plant friends, right? When you think about food, if you were to put that food on the table and see how long it takes to decompose, the quicker things will come and eat it. Those things tend to be, by and large, really, really good for the gut, right? We've all seen those videos where someone pulls out a Big Mac and they've had it for 20 years and it looks exactly the same. Your gut bacteria does not want it. That's why it responds. When we do that gut testing, we can tell you've had a meal because your body's like, cool, this isn't food. So if it's something that will quickly, if you leave it out, be eaten by bugs or rot, it is something that's kind of a rough litmus test. Is that going to help feed? Right. And there's some really neat studies that kind of don't poo-poo probiotic, but they say the better way. Oh, look at me making a punny comment. Thank you for saying that, because I didn't catch it. But there's some studies out there, some really studies that say, question probiotics for a while. And it wasn't because per se they weren't effective, but really food tends to be, fermented foods in particular, tends to seed and get up in your gut, quite literally, a lot better than something that's a little bit more of a sanitized capsule that you're hoping, right? We want to pill away things. You're not going to be able to pill away certain things like your biome. It requires real food coming into the body, and that will dramatically shift the populations. And that by itself will dramatically shift your ability to lose weight, right? There's a population of bacteria. I'm going to butcher the name, so I apologize to the microbiologists out there. It's called Firmicutes, something like that. It's really responsible for digesting fats, and ensuring how much energy do you take from the fats. The higher your populations of that, the more energy you're going to be taking from your food. And that's something you can really naturally shift and downregulate. Hi, puppy. That's something you can really naturally shift and downregulate. We welcome pet friends. It's okay. Shift and downregulate.
Yes, my dogs are just like, Mom, are you done yet?
We almost are done. We almost are done to that point. I think we have probably time for about one more question. For those that have submitted questions that we haven't gotten a chance to get around to, please know we are recording these questions. We are going to pull them into the Facebook group. We might even pull a picture of the pup that's trying to disrupt us, just because we love pet friends here at the DNA company. So let me just pull out the last question that we're going to be having here this evening. So I think the last thing that we're going to look at is just someone really, really quickly asked for a recap of the keto genes, or at least genes that we'll look at as to kind of is an appropriate diet. And again, remember, there's an element of, we just talked about biome is really important, but my top ones there is going to be the ApoA2, right? That guy really looking at, with high volumes of fat, how does that shift your metabolism more into a weight gain state compared to other states? I definitely look at FTO. FTO, if you're suboptimal in that space, if you're suboptimal, you're kind of someone that needs carbohydrates to feel satisfied. So can you do keto? Sure, but you're not going to be happy. So there has to be a balancing there. Also looking at other parameters of like ApoE and how you're kind of digesting your fats in general. Dr. Steph, any other genes that you look at that you'd want to toss out there when someone's thinking about a ketogenic diet? Do you look at the insulin regulation, guys, for that too?
Yeah, I was going to say really the insulin regulation, because even though carbs impact the insulin, if you get too much fat, it does too. The fat will turn in. So when I think of healthy dietary fat profiles, I look at the ApoA2, I look at the FTO, and then as we talked about, the TCF7L2. Yeah. Those are the ones that I look at. And then, you know, it just goes back to insulin stability, insulin stability, insulin stability. Now, I will tell you, and Felicia, I'd love your take on this before we close, is I actually like exogenous ketones, and I will prescribe exogenous ketones to people who have trouble getting into keto, or who have a real horrible keto reaction, that they can take those and get themselves into fat burning. I actually have a client right now who tests her ketones in her urine and cannot get any kind of a significant track, and has stabilized her weight. She isn't gaining, but she isn't losing. And we started doing the exogenous, and again, she still is not having a lot of results in the urine test, but her clothes are now loose. She's now losing weight. She's now got the brain, the constant energy. She's now got the brain that feels focused. It's like, I can think again. I don't know how you feel about exogenous ketones for people who are trying to do some keto, or they're keto light.
Yeah, no, I think they're good. And like you said she's not losing weight, but she's changing. She's morphing. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Some people react really good to it, and some people but it's so like, okay, what are you doing? What are you eating? When are you doing? Are you exercising enough? You got to look at the big picture. But I absolutely, if it works, I go for it. And yes, I do recommend it at times.
Yeah, it's really, really coming back to kind of this idea of personalized medicine, that your genes tell us a lot, but so does your experience of the world. And really, as you tune into whatever health goal, whatever health journey you're on, being really humble to the feedback from the body, right? Because we know the body is trying to tell you things. We just have to learn to listen and kind of grow a better relationship there. Because I can appreciate, especially for people who are trying to lose weight, and it feels a little bit more as an adversarial relationship. It's really important to kind of start nurturing that and understanding what the body's trying to tell you, because the body naturally wants to be in a healthy state, and it will help guide you there alongside, expert opinions, alongside understanding your genes, alongside a lot of the community support, remembering that we're not little lone islands. We are creatures that belong in community. So I think that's a beautiful way, in particular, on that kind of personalized. For some people it works, for others, maybe we try again. A beautiful note to be ending this evening on our diet and nutrition. I want to thank everyone in the audience who so steadfastly showed up for this and really started to explore some different fitness goals. I know that, are you ready for this, Felicia? So everyone in the audience knows my goal is a little bit to go to the gym. And look, I have a big muscle.
You have definition. You have a baby bump. Look at that. You go,
A
girl.
little baby muscle. It's taken a long time to get there, but I have an itty bitty muscle and I'm very proud of her.
I'm very proud of you. That's amazing. I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love
So I would love for those in the audience, please do share your success story, share what your little baby muscle is. Be that, I was trying to change maybe the sizing of my pants. I was trying to put on a little bit of muscle mass, whatever it might be. Please do share with us, because we want to be part of this journey. And we want, as a community, to celebrate. We want the Felicias and the Dr. Stephs of the world to be like, good job, little baby muscle. So please do join our group. It's going to be where you're going to also find our schedule. So again, we're doing this approximately every other week. You'll find on there when this next time is. You'll find our next topics. And I really want to take a moment to thank both Felicia, Dr. Steph, for the time, for the joy, for the expertise, and really grounding health, not only in a way of like, let's be smart about it, but let's play with it and let's have some fun. It's not this scary thing that we need to be all concerned of. So ladies, thank you so very much. Thank you to everyone in the audience who's participating, tossing out their questions, educating me on American geography. I appreciate you. And I also got some education on siestas too. I was called out that French folk eat in their cars, and that makes me very sad. I wish that wasn't true. I wish you fit your stereotype in that instance, but here we go. So thank you everyone so much. And we will see you all in about 2 weeks. Have a beautiful evening. Au revoir, mes amis.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.